Hey guys, it's the Red Baron 59 here, back with another YouTube video and a quick commentary about the gameplay in the background. Here is like probably, I guess, the most comical DNA fail I've ever had. I thought it was pretty funny the way I die. I go 30-0 or 30-1 in this game, so it's a 30 KD DNA fail on the map Riot. I think it's a pretty cool one. You'll get to see like some pretty ham and banana stuff. It would have been an amazing DNA if I had actually gotten it because of the way I played the game, but that's neither here nor there. So today I wanted to talk about a couple of things. So a lot of people talk about, I guess, whether or not MLG will be moving to PlayStation. So one of the things I think is really important to keep in mind with this is that Xbox paid for a lot of the big tournaments on MLG, and that really, like, Activision doesn't really necessarily have anything directly to do with the way the MLG is run, its streaming service, its website, none of that shit. It's really not a thing for them. Vandahar, I think, out of all the developers, has the greatest amount of interest in MLG, and I would say realistically that Sledgehammer may even have less of an interest in supporting MLG than Infinity Ward does. And I think that's one of the things that's definitely really held back MLG, is that they want so badly to have a big part in this game and other games, but game developers, there's not really a lot of financial incentive for them to give a damn about, you know, competitive in the scene they're in. At least not for them right now, unless they were to develop a bigger goal and vision for moving it on to, you know, I guess bigger media landscapes like ESPN. And I think there are some people that are loosely interested in that, but it's hard for them to prove a real potential financial benefit to the amount of effort they'd have to put into it. And honestly, their energy is always spent on developing the game, so they really don't have a lot of time for that. But anyway, regardless of that, so I read a couple of articles recently because I've been trying to figure out some things about it. And there's a guy, Sundance Giovanni, and another guy, Adam Apicella. I assume it's the way that the names are pronounced, but Adam Apicella is like a big event planner, and Sundance Giovanni is again another big, I guess, face at MLG. And so a lot of people directed their anger at them when PlayStation announced its new deal with Call of Duty, and they were, you know, basically saying like, why didn't you say anything about this to them? And the article, and I quote, said, it is a bit above our pay grade to know, you know, to be made aware of this. Essentially saying that they're not actually employees of Treyarch. They don't really have anything directly to do with them. You know, they know the guys and they have some loose interactions with them, but in the end, they're not Treyarch employees, and Treyarch doesn't really have a huge interest in MLGs. So, you know, they basically said that they didn't really know that the PlayStation deal was going to happen any more than anybody else did. You know, they may have had suspicions or things like that, but nobody had told them directly. So at this point, they said also that they really are as unsure as everybody else what the fate of game battles on Xbox will be, and whether or not PlayStation is going to take up the mantle of a lot of the big tournaments that Xbox held and actually hold them themselves. It's a question a lot of people have. Will PlayStation support, you know, CoD champs? Will PlayStation support a lot of the larger tournaments that Xbox had a hand in funding and organizing, etc.? I don't really know. They don't really know, so we'll have to wait for more news on that. But I thought I would let you guys know about that, and I'll be linking the article in the description below for that. And as well, on the subject of Call of Duty remakes, this is an opinion I've had for a long time, and I basically feel that it was confirmed by Activision, my stance on this, that I've said to people before about why I don't think they've remade any Call of Duty games. So Activision CEO spoke with the guy at Game Informer about remastering a lot of Call of Duty titles, and Hirschberg, the individual in question, says that if done well, I think remasters can be great. You talk about nostalgia, and people have such a connection to the games they love from the last cycle. They want to see what it would look like if someone did it right for this cycle. It's always the opportunity cost, meaning we need everybody we can to make the content we've already committed to for our new games. It's always a matter of finding great people to do that work. I would love to play Modern Warfare or the original Black Ops. There's certainly a deep well there. No announcements, but it's something we talk about and think a lot about. So anyway, what they basically have said is that we don't want it to compete with any of our games, especially in a struggling franchise. You'll also notice that Assassin's Creed is the only other game developer really that hasn't been doing any remakes on this console. And one of the reasons I think as well is because they are on an annual release cycle. Most games are not, and most games are single player, and they're not really concerned about the effect of a, I guess how do you put this, a super pack of all their games, being released and made available to the public. They're not really concerned about that because they release single player games every 2 to 3 years for most of these developers. So to remaster a game doesn't really hurt them because they can do it in between their development cycle. They have a lot more time to get things done, and it is a pretty large undertaking. But essentially what they're really saying is that we're concerned with the struggling franchise, that if we were to remake a game, that it would take thunder away from a popular, or from one that is getting ready to be released, and would essentially hurt the sales of that game. And that, even if we release it in the middle of the year, a lot of people without a lot of money who may save money just to buy that game, young kids, etc., might buy the remake and not play the new game, especially if they're not a big fan of the futuristic movement things that have been brought into it lately, and they don't want to deal with the competition as well. They don't have the manpower, so even if they did decide to, they would have to get another company like, say, High Moon Studios, which I think already has a bad reputation because of the way it's handled updates and things for this game, or Beachhead, or any of these other companies that they contract out this extra work to make the remake. Now, I guess that's not really 100% great answer on that part, but that's basically how they feel about it. They really don't want to do that, is basically what they said. And I'm kind of just curious whether or not it will ever happen, but at this point, personally, I really don't see it happening anytime soon. Unless they've got some kind of secret thing in the works already, I just don't really see them remaking those games. And, I was kind of curious too, so I read another article talking about, from another person's perspective, why they think that it may not ever happen too. And it was from a contributing writer for Forbes magazine. And he talked about how basically he feels that the fear of the cannibalistic nature of the Call of Duty community is another reason they may not pursue those games. Essentially what he's saying is that COD has a tendency to eat its weak, and anytime it smells blood, it definitely does react aggressively. And if there's something they don't like about the game, we all know what the COD community does when it gets unhappy about something. Tweets, aggressive tweets, violent tweets, threats to people. I forget the woman's name, but the woman from Infinity Ward, when people didn't enjoy certain things about Ghost, people threatening to rape her, attack her family, it's and if the same type of thing were to happen as with the Master Chief Collection, where they contract out a portion of the reproduction of these games, and the remake goes horribly, and to just think of the Twitter backlash and the social media backlash in general that they would experience, I can't rightly blame them for not wanting to put those games out. But that was just basically what I saw on it, and I thought a lot of people would find the information useful. They're very short articles if you want to read over them and just kind of see for yourself. I think, basically his statements on all of these things were maybe 2 paragraphs at most, 3. And so it's a pretty quick read if you're interested in seeing what he had to say about it. But, I agree that the nature of the COD community is another thing that holds back the chances that they would ever put these games out, because anytime anything goes wrong, the COD community is super aggressive and reacts super violently to it. And, I think that's also one of the sad things about this community, is how we treat our developers and the people that bring us these great games. I know that things go wrong sometimes, but, everybody makes mistakes, and we can't sit there and just butcher them every single time that, a mistake is made, and cuss them out and threaten their family and threaten to rape them, whatever else it may be. But that's all I really have to say about it. I'm going to be keeping it, I've got some, ways to keep track of new information on this, and I'll be posting anything else I see about MLG and whether or not PlayStation is going to be continuing that I guess tradition now at this point, because they've had 3 COD champs, and I guess arguably 4 if you count the Modern Warfare 3 games that they had, and I'm curious to see too whether or not they will be either continuing it on Xbox, which I don't think Xbox would be doing themselves, or whether they will be bringing it over to PlayStation, and PlayStation will be kind of helping to fund and advertise those things. But anyway, guys, this will be concluding my video. It's a Red Baron 59 signing off. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it informative. Drop a like if you liked, and a sub if you want some more.